Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. As always, my name is Corey.
Ryan.
I'm Nick.
I'm John.
And if you like what you see here, please consider subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate it. And as always, if you leave comments below, we will get back to you. We love the back and forth chat. Today's game we are talking about is Freshwater Fly. Let's get right into it.
In this game, we're trying to catch fish as fly fishermen. On your turn, you can take a dice and then do one of three actions. First, cast into the port of river that you're looking to hook a fish. Secondly, you can use your dice to spin a reel, which is on your personal game board. This is how you land the fish once it's on the line. And thirdly, you can burn a dice to move up your finesse. As part of your turn, there are bonus actions you can take. Firstly, if you land a fish near a rock, you get rock bonus actions that you can use for the remainder of the game. Secondly, you have finesse, that if you burn a dice to gain finesse, you can use it to do various actions on your turn, increase or decrease the value of a dice, move some hatchlings around to increase your chances of hooking the fish. You can increase your strike chance for when you're actually trying to catch. You can also change your drag to make it easier to reel in overall. And the last bonus action is momentum tokens, which sort of do various variations of the same.
All right, and then one of the main mechanics is landing a fish. So Ryan, if you want to go into more on how you do that.
Sure. So on your turn, you select a dice. In this instance, I want to overall try and catch this nice red coho here because they're worth 6 extra bonus points at the end of the game if you have the most coho. So I'll take this 6. I'm going to cast out to here, and I'm going to have an orange fly. This I would have selected at the beginning of my turn, and you put that in here. So the way you catch is hopefully you draw strikes that match up with this color fly that you have, and I'm going to hopefully try for this. So I actually don't want to catch it on this first one. Corey, if you want to pick my strikes here.
Okay, it's just one at the first one, right?
Yep. Miss.
Miss.
So then I'm going to go drift down to here, and I don't match anything. So I'm going to draw no strikes, and then I'm going to drift down to this coho here, and since I match there, we get 2 on a drift. And because I want to make sure I catch a fish, I'm going to burn a finesse to add a strike card.
So now
we get to draw all 3. Ooh, good thing I burned that finesse. We hook the fish, we pick this up and put it on our point tracker here, and refurnish the river with a nice new trout. But that's landing a fish.
into the pros. I think we'd all agree that the theme is a big pro in this game. I am not a fly fisherman myself, but I know Ryan's trying to get more into it.
Feels like you were on the water, didn't it?
It did feel like I was on the water.
You could almost smell the stream.
You could smell something, yeah, definitely. And we turned on some fans, got the breeze blowing, and you just felt like you were right there. For me, my biggest pro, I guess I'll start, is the mechanics of the game. I really liked the combo aspect of the game. It really felt like every decision you made could combo into another decision, or combo into maybe even a third action on the same turn with the bonus tiles. So really getting the various bonuses on the reels, along with the momentum and the finesse. There was a few different things you could manipulate to really maximize your turns. So,
Well, one thing that I really liked about this type of game is you didn't ever feel overburdened with choices, but you also had enough choices where you felt you had to make smart decisions. And I think, this type of game, you can be on either end of those spectrums, which would then kind of create a negative experience. But I felt this game was kind of right in this ballpark sweet spot of in terms of choices.
Yeah.
definitely wasn't too light, but definitely middleweight. Enough choices to make.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think the aspect of the game I liked the most was how you have to think about which lure you're trying to use in order to catch a fish you're shooting for, and how those hatchlings down at the bottom of the board kind of correspond to your odds of catching something. I think in the base game, obviously, that if you are able to line up, 3 color hatchlings of your lure to catch a fish, and that basically guarantees you to catch by that third, try if you haven't got it before, is kind of more neutral. But I think overall that, excitement of like, okay, in this space I get 1 card, but now if I fail and go here, it's 2 if you played that out right. And,
Yeah.
trying to maximize that chance of catching a fish.
Yeah.
And I will say that thematically that does tie in very well to fly fishing, because when you're actually fly fishing, you cast upstream of where you think the fish are hiding and let it drift down to increase your chances of catching that fish. So in this game, you do cast, say, into the 6, and then if you fail to catch, you let your fly drift down the river, which increases your chance to catch strikes each time you let it drift. So that is kind of a cool tie into real fly fishing.
I say I really like the mechanic of the finesse track that they have in this game. It really allows for you to decide how much you want to exhaust your finesse in order to guarantee a certain outcome. So if you want a 100% guarantee that you catch a certain fish, you could use your finesse track to get enough strike cards where you guarantee that chance. But then you exhaust your finesse, you won't have it available maybe later in that same turn to do something else that would be beneficial to you. So you have to make those choices, and it's a pretty simple mechanic, but one that adds a nice amount of choices to the game.
So one other thing I thought was cool about this game was how the basically you take your turn by choosing one of the dice out of the common pool. I think there's a nice balance there in that if you pick a higher valued dice, you might be able to reel your line in quicker, thus, catching your fish, getting more points. But the way the turn order is determined is that whoever has the lowest sum on their dice pool by the end of the round is now the first player for next round, thus giving yourself more options for what you want to do or what fish you want to catch. And I think that balance was really cool.
It did balance real well.
Great.
All right, so moving right into cons. Who wants to start with the cons of the game?
I can start. It's not a perfect game. It was very fun on our first playthrough. One thing that I was looking forward to before I opened the box was kind of following in maybe Wingspan's vein, is maybe having some cool facts or something about the fish. Or more so even, instead of just calling them hatchlings, maybe call them certain bugs. I mean, like mayflies or stoneflies or midges or things like that would have been kind of a little more thematic to name some of your flies and hatchlings. Would have been kind of a cool touch, but certainly neither of those things are necessary to improve the game.
Well, for myself, it seemed to play a little on the longer side. The box said 40 to 90 minutes, and we were definitely over 90, about 2 hours. 2 hours. And it was our first play, so obviously
we were learning the rules.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say if it would be a lot faster the second time around, but it did seem to get a little on the longer side by the end of the game.
Yeah, and as Nick said too, the more you understand the game and the more everybody at the table is more familiar with the game, it'll definitely play in more of probably that 90-minute time frame. And I don't think the designers could have done anything differently about that, catching the 7 fish to trigger the end of the game. I don't think you could have done any fewer because of the different scoring combos you're looking for. So I think just with more plays and more familiarity, it might quicken that too. But I guess that was one of my cons. The first game took a little bit long. But I guess it didn't really feel like it wasn't enjoyable not knowing anything about fly fishing, so I guess that's kind of back to a pro. But also that could play into the con. I guess that's why I'm kind of putting it here, is that it might not appeal to certain people who have no care in the world about fishing at all.
I guess from my perspective, I don't really have like a major con that detracts for this game. I'd say this game, like, while not perfect, it falls pretty well into that neutral range where there were a few things I really liked, but overall it's like, okay, this makes sense and this is enjoyable, but I wouldn't say there was anything of the game, even though I didn't like do great, like that really detracted for me, other than like these guys hit on with the theme. Like I could see people not seeing that, but I don't like fishing, but I still thought this game was alright.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I guess let's roll right into like the teachability and the weight of the game and how complex it is. Let's roll that all into one. Ryan, did you feel like this game, maybe teaching it to future people, would be easy to teach or difficult?
I think it's easy to teach once you know it. Reading through the rule book, I mean, it made sense, I guess, by the time we got to the end, but there were a lot of times that we kind of stopped and reread things and went back and looked a second or third or fourth time to make sure that made sense. But once it clicks, you're pretty much good. I mean, by mid-game, we weren't really referencing rules anymore, and that was pretty good,
Except for Corey, because he wanted to break the game like 100 times.
That's true.
There was a little bit, or a lot of nuances in the game.
Oh my, there's no
I thought so. Some gray area, but Nick, you touched up on the kind of the complexity or the weight of the game earlier in the video. So
yeah, I would say one thing worth mentioning is having a little bit of base knowledge of fly fishing could definitely help understand the rules of this game, because a concept I had no knowledge of prior was the hatchlings, and you were saying how good fly fishermen will actually see what kind of hatchlings or bugs are in that area, and that explains the whole hatchling concept and why you're trying to match your lure to the color of the hatchlings, because those are hatchlings, because those are the color, that's the type of fish you're trying to catch, etc. But if you had no knowledge of that, the rules then would kind of be, what's all this about, and you might
More of a disconnect.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is true. There is a fair amount of this game that, outside of just trying to play the game, you won't really understand the terminology or why things are the way they are unless you are a fly fisherman.
And even the drifting part, like you're casting above the fish and then
Right.
it drifts down. Like if you didn't really understand that part of fly fishing,
And then you're kind of
maybe,
confused as to why you're actually drawing more strikes as you're drifting. Because at first I was like, well, I
Yeah.
want the fish right there, so why isn't
Yeah.
that my best odds?
Right.
But you want it
Yeah,
to
the
go
point
that
is
way.
to drift to
Yep.
the fish, so that actually makes a ton of sense.
And I think I would also say one thing that came up with the theme and knowing about fly fishing is that if there is a rule question that seems awkward, we kind of just house ruled that if it doesn't make sense of something you could do while you're fly fishing, like you can technically maybe change your lure at any time in this game. We're not sure, but in real life you wouldn't be able to do that. So we house ruled it that you can't, because Corey was trying to cheat.
Exactly. Once you cast, you
That's
can't
true.
change the lure that's on
Yeah.
the line. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. I get it. I agree with you guys. I agree. And we failed to mention earlier that there is a solo variant to the game as well that we have not gotten to the table, but one or more of us are going to definitely try that for our final impressions video. But this being our first impressions, overall thoughts, I think we can all say across the board that it was definitely more fun than we thought it would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool and worth bringing to the table more than just once. So that's always a good sign of a game too.
Definitely, this game kind of earns a lot higher marks if you're into fishing, especially fly fishing. If you're not, while it's still a good game, certainly you'd probably pick different games over it, I guess.
well, for me personally, as a learning experience, I learned about fly fishing. So obviously it helped having Ryan here, but I would never have learned this much about fly fishing had I not played this game. So I think that was kind of something that I feel a lot of people out there would be able to benefit
Kind of makes
from.
it a more unique experience that way. So.
All right, well, that pretty much wraps it up for our first impressions video. Again, we're talking cardboard with our first impressions of Freshwater Fly. Like always, if you like what you see here, please consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll get back to your comments. If you've played the game before or more than we have, definitely leave those in the comments below as well, because we'd like to see your opinions on it too. So until next time, you all have a great day.